From the Amplified Growth Studios in Alexandria, Virginia, it's that time of week again, boys and girls. This is Association Chat with your host, me, Kiki L'Italien. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Association Chat. This is your weekly online discussion for the association community where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host of Association Chat, Kiki L'Italien, and I want to give a shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Fontiva. It's the AMS for innovation. Their ongoing support of Association Chat means a lot to me and to the community here. If you're on Crowdcast, you can click the little call to action button at the bottom of the screen to check out Fontiva. They've got an awesome blog for association community, for the association community. And if you're listening to this later on iTunes or on Google or on Stitcher, you can just visit fontiva.com and check out their blog. So for this episode of Association Chat, we are talking about a favorite subject for many people and also something that troubles a lot of people who are trying to make it work. We're talking about webinars. This is titled Webinar Revolution, and that's because we need one. With me today are several guests. We might have a fourth person that comes on, but with me today right now, we have Tracy King. She's the Chief Learning Strategist and CEO of Inspired Ed. We have Renee Latimer. She is an association executive with American Dental Education Association with so many credentials, I couldn't possibly list them all. Lance Simon, he is the Vice President of iCohere, right? Did I say that right?
You sure did.
Okay, thank you. And he, oh my gosh, so he has 1,000,001. They all have these extensive bios that you can read about on the description for this show. But I want to skip past that and get to the juicy stuff, the really, really good stuff, because today we have a situation, my friends. We are dealing with webinars that are boring, not driving engagement. We have webinars that are missing the mark. We have people who are organizations who are trying to engage and educate people and struggling. And we have a lot of questions, don't we? Yes, we do. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. So here's the current situation. We are in a situation where people are dissatisfied, unhappy with the way that webinars are being put on, but they don't know what to do. And Tracy, I know that this whole talk today came from a discussion that was happening in the Association Chat online community. And we got to talking and you pulled together this awesome group of people to give us a little bit of knowledgeable feedback on what we can do. So let's talk about it. What do you see happening and what do we need to be doing instead? Let's start there.
All right. Well, what I see happening is everything that you said. Webinars are boring, they're too long, they don't engage participants. We have this incredible technology that's continuing to evolve in amazing ways that it's built for interaction. It was created specifically for virtual interaction, and we've kind of put baby in the corner. We're only letting baby deliver unidirectional presentations. And so everything is about these text-heavy slides, and interaction is relegated to a few chats or a few polls when it should be a discussion. There's so much potential for how webinars can function in our learning portfolio and for how we can produce them, which I'm so excited to talk about today with our guests. So I'm coming at this topic from an education strategy and learning design perspective. We've got Lance here, who's coming from a technology perspective and a producer's perspective. And we have some association pros, you can see Renee right now, whose organizations are taking a look at webinars and saying, this isn't working. So how are we going to be strategically reposition webinars so that they're a meaningful part of our learning portfolio, that draw people to attend, that draw people to interact around really important topics and content?
Yeah, I think that it's such an important thing because people can put a lot of money and time and resources. Yeah. You reach out to a subject matter expert, you get the really important speaker, author, what have you, they come on to do this wonderful webinar and crickets, right? Or you have people who are on there and something falls apart tech-wise. There's so much that can go wrong. And so I want to actually move this over and talk a little bit to Renee and ask you, Renee, about your own situation with your organization. Now, on the association side, you're often in the position, I'm sure, where you're having to make sure, or you have had to make sure, that the education, the learning that you're providing to people is top notch. It is something that's driving a lot of engagement, and it's something that's seen as a success for your organization. So I imagine that's true. How are you working to serve your members and sort of evolve what you're doing? Give me sort of a history of what you're doing with webinars.
Well, my strategic goal is to reestablish webinars back into our e-portfolios. We currently produce 6, but our initiative currently is to produce around 40. So finding content that's relevant to our members is very important. And, like you guys have mentioned, engagement is a must. How do we engage? Our last webinar that we had was actually 45 minutes. It wasn't an hour. So we also implemented polling questions. We actually had a robust chat with the presenter. And also content. I always tell my coworkers here, does the content have legs? Where is it taking us? Can we streamline it into a live event or into social media or a part 2 webinar? So we're considering, I think you have to be creative. There's an art and there's a science really to putting this all together. The art is allowing yourself to be nimble. Maybe it's a 45-minute webinar instead of an hour. The science to it is maybe pulling data from different areas and evaluations. And currently we have a cross-functional team that we're putting together because this information shouldn't just lie in the meetings department or the professional development department. So we have pulled together about 6 members of ADIA, and from our membership, from marketing, from professional development and meetings to kind of help with the initiative.
One of the things that you said was that you were always looking to see and asking your colleague if the content had legs. And so I think that's something where people would be like, yeah, you want to know if the content has legs, but let's dig into what that means. Because if I'm an association executive and I'm trying to figure out how to improve my webinars, does it have legs? How do you know if it does? How does your colleague know if it does?
Well, sometimes you don't know, but I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, we had a webinar with over 900 participants. To me, that was a webinar that had legs. We could have weaved that into other things, maybe even a part 2. So when I say that, when you see those type of numbers, or we could have charged, which, at that time it was free to our members. Maybe the next one we would charge. I think when you see those type of numbers or numbers that are exceeding your own goals, I think that's an opportunity to use that into other formats.
Right.
Here's a key question, Kiki, is when you're taking a look at what kinds of topics you want to offer in webinars, ask the question, what problems do our members want to solve?
Yes.
If we're bringing forward those crucial problems and pain points and we're creating a discussion around it, goosebumps. I mean, that's what people want. And that can parlay into so many other touch points, all kinds of different content, live, online, mobile, synchronous, asynchronous. There's so many ways you can build learning pathways around that. It's all about solving problems.
I love you so much right now for saying that. That is, I mean, answering those questions. And that's something that for whatever kind of content that you're producing, always figuring out what are the pain points, but like seriously, what are the questions that people have? Being able to address those. I mean, oh my God, talk about being relevant. So yeah, that's such a good point.
I'll tell you what is a great point in the process to get those questions. How do you get those questions? I don't know if you would have said this anyway, but your registration form. It's amazing to me that most registration forms don't have any like little survey in them. They don't ask people for their key objectives. They don't ask people how experienced they are. And one of the things that I think is just such an easy add-on is to do that and then if you ask people for words or if you ask people for phrases, take those and put them into some sort of word cloud tool. I use Wordle.net, whatever you want. Or have a little survey like a Mentimeter kind of poll, and just have people type in 3 words that they think about this topic or that they have as goals, and then show that feedback right at the beginning of the webinar. What you're doing is not only giving people information about what you're going to say, right? I'm going to tell them what I'm going to tell them, and then tell them what I told. But you're also saying right at the beginning, you own this program with me. I don't fully own this program. We own it together. And now I have a responsibility to address these things that you put in here. It just gets everything off to a great start.
Well, see, and that's such a good point, because I wanted to dig into that a little bit more. Yeah. Is it at the registration, or where is it that you're gleaning these ideas and getting these ideas and ending up with, I mean, a lot of people would be blown away to have 900 attendees for a webinar. I mean, we can't see the people who are participating necessarily, but I would ask at this point for someone to, for a show of hands, how many people are regularly getting this kind of attendance? And so how is it what is the process where you collect this information? And Renee, I'm posing this to you, but I want to continue to get everyone else's feedback too. So feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I would say pulling the information out of registration, at registration at that time, and also maybe sending out booster questions, questions where you're trying to find a little bit more so that you can tailor your webinar to the responses like you had mentioned, during the webinar and also after. So I think, it's before, it may be during, it may be after. Keep asking, ask.
And I'll tell you, you may be comfortable with using this information to a certain level, and certainly you wouldn't personally identify anybody. But if you're doing your registration through your IMIS, your NetForm, your Personify, whatever, guess what? You have all sorts of information on the people who have registered. You know their titles, generally how long they've been a member of the association. Why not share that with people to just say, this is the kind of crowd that we have here today. This is, we have an amazing, experienced group of people taking part in this.
Yeah.
And more broadly too, instead of asking our members or our target prospects, what do you want to hear? What topics do you want to see? Go on a listening tour. Go where they are, where they're talking, where they're sharing problems, where they're trying to crowdsource solutions. And then you will know quite clearly. Go to Association Chat if you're serving that community. And you'll see exactly what people are looking for. We have to be creative about listening where people are having this conversation, because then we can bring it back to our learning community and dig in together.
So what about, let me go into actually setting up the webinars. And we've talked a little bit about identifying subjects that resonate with people and really hit the mark. Let's talk about when you get that subject, but then you're working with the presenter And a lot of times when I've been invited to be a presenter on a webinar, maybe there's a run through on how to use whatever sort of software or system, how do you toggle back and forth between